Number 5. The rise of the Hollywood gunfighter. The image most people carry in their heads did not ride out of a real cattle town. It walked off a film set. The road to that look started with Wild West shows at the end of the 19th century, where performers needed the audience to read a character from 50 yards away. Big hats, bright scarves, and obvious guns told a story in an instant. Dime novels added the drama and polished every fight into a clean duel. By the 1910s and 1920s, silent films locked those choices into moving pictures, and the camera loved a low holster with a shiny grip. Early stars wore rigs that were already more theatrical than practical, because a close belt and a small pocket pistol did not sell a hero to the back row. As sound movies arrived, the gun needed to clear leather fast, hit its mark, and do it again for the next take. Armorers and leather workers responded with purpose-built drop rigs and steel-lined holsters that helped the barrel glide. That setup did not come from frontier towns. It came from studios that wanted reliability on demand. The Busacadero style, with the belt dropping through a wide loop and the holster hanging lower on the thigh, became a visual shortcut for toughness. It put the grip in the frame and kept the muzzle from snagging on a coat hem under hot lights. Stars like Tom Mix and later John Wayne and Audie Murphy showed that silhouette to millions, and the audience learned to equate that look with the West itself. Behind the scenes, fast draw became its own craft. Exhibition shooters in the early 20th century proved what was possible with tuned gear and endless practice. Their techniques flowed into film training, where safety and repeatability mattered more than authenticity. In the 1950s, television sped everything up. Weekly westerns needed clear costumes, readable action, and a consistent way to stage confrontations. Metal-lined holsters, low rides, and relaxed gun belts became the uniform. The famous slap of the palm onto the grip and the blindingly quick draw were designed to read from the couch, not from a saloon doorway. The trick worked so well that it reshaped memory. When people later looked back at photos of real cowboys with high-ride holsters or simple belt slips, those images felt wrong, even though they were common. Museums and historians kept pointing out that town laws often pushed handguns out of sight and that working riders relied on rifles and shotguns. The screen had already won the argument in popular culture. The myth fed itself in other ways. Cartridge belts on film were stuffed with more rounds than any cowhand would bother to carry in town. Revolvers gleamed like jewelry, even though dust and sweat would dull a real finish fast. Actors practiced clean, safe movements while facing front for the lens, which encouraged squared shoulders and telegraphed hands that would have been risky in a real fight. Even the stance drifted towards the needs of framing and lighting. By the time fast draw competitions took off for hobbyists, the Hollywood version of the West had become the starting point for gear design, not the frontier. Leather makers sold drop rigs because people wanted to look like the heroes they grew up with. Number 4. Native Americans, traders, and travelers. Life on the trails and borderlands pushed people to carry firearms in quiet, functional ways, and that included native communities, merchants, freight crews, families in wagons, and stagecoach messengers. Native warriors and hunters adopted firearms through trade long before the cattle boom, yet they carried them with the same focus on movement they used for bows and lances. A long gun rode across the lap on horseback, or lay in a rawhide or cloth wrap to keep out rain and grit. Some used simple slings, or tied a rifle to the saddle where it could be reached with one hand without tangling with the horn. Pistols were less common, but not unknown, and when a revolver showed up, it usually rode high at the waist, tucked into a sash or belt, or secured with a narrow strip of hide. The goal was to keep the weapon tight to the body and protected while moving fast across open ground. Ammunition storage followed the same logic. With older muzzleloaders, powder horns and shot pouches hung close and tight, and small tools for cleaning or priming stayed in a bag that could be grabbed while mounted. As cartridge rifles spread, lightweight pouches replaced horns, and spare rounds rode in pockets rather than on heavy display belts. Many hunters still preferred the bow for silence and reliability, so a firearm complemented older methods instead of replacing them outright. Traders learned fast that a dangling gun was a problem around wagons, crates, and skittish animals. On river routes and at posts, a shopkeeper kept a pistol near the till or under a counter rather than on the hip. On the move, a rifle lived on the wagon seat, under a blanket, or in a scabbard lashed to the inside rail, where it would not bounce out on rutted ground. Travelers crossing long stretches of prairie thought about dust, moisture, and jolts more than quick draws, so a gun might be wrapped in oiled cloth and unwrapped only at camp, or when a threat felt real. Women who made the journey carried two, often with a small revolver tucked into a pocket or bag, because it was easier to keep close while tending a fire, loading a child into a seat, or stepping down in a crowded street. Stage and freight outfits brought a different pattern. The driver needed both hands, so the messenger riding shotgun kept a short double barrel within arm's reach and a revolver where it would not snag as he shifted along rough switchbacks. That shotgun was stored in a bracket or between the knees, so it could clear the bench in an instant without swinging a long barrel past the team. Town law kept everyone's habits in check once a coach rolled in. Many places required travelers to check firearms at hotels or with the sheriff, so the gun that rode openly on a coach became just another piece of baggage by the time the ticket was handed over. Mountain men and pack traders favored sturdy rifles because they doubled for hunting and defense, and a pistol, if carried at all, was a compact backup hidden in a sash or backpack pocket. Across all these groups, the common thread was the same. Keep the gun accessible but not exposed. Keep it clean, dry, and secure against jolts and weather. Carry it in ways that match the task at hand, whether that meant a wrapped rifle across the saddle, a small revolver riding high under a coat, or a coach gun braced on a mountain road, where trouble favored close range and fast hands. Number 3. Cowboys, ranch hands, and riders. The daily life of a working cowboy ran on miles, dust, and cattle, not staged showdowns, so the way gear was carried followed the job. A low drop rig hanging off the thigh looked dramatic, but rubbed raw on long rides and snagged on saddle horns. Most hands chose high-riding holsters that hugged the belt, or they skipped a holster and tucked a small revolver where it stayed put, under a coat or waistband. Those who wore leather leaned on simple, close-fitting patterns that kept grit out, and the gun secure while roping or changing pace. The common designs were the slim, high California holster, and later, the sturdier Mexican loop, both built for retention first and speed a distant second. On the trail, the handgun was not the primary tool. A lever-action rifle or carbine did the heavy lifting because it reached farther, hit harder, and could be managed from a saddle. Riders kept long guns in leather scabbards strapped to the saddle in positions that cleared the leg and allowed a quick grab with the strong hand. Guides taught several standard placements, and photos from the era show Texas Rangers and drovers carrying that way. Carbine-length Winchesters earned their reputation because they balanced power with handiness on horseback, and park records and museum notes back up how common they were in the 1870s and 1880s. Trail bosses cared about control more than swagger, which shaped habits even more. If guns were not needed for a stretch, they might be stowed in a chuck wagon or wrapped and tied down to avoid accidental discharges that could spook a herd. Ranch rules sometimes limited sidearms around camps or headquarters to keep tempers and whiskey from mixing with loaded cylinders. When a hand rode into a cattle town, local ordinances often required checking weapons anyway, so there was no point wearing a pistol loud and proud on the street. All of that pushed carry choices toward quiet and practical. Cross-draw rigs showed up because they let a rider draw while seated and kept the grip clear of the horn. Pocket pistols and short-barrel revolvers were popular because they hid under a vest and did not beat a hip against the saddle. The goal was always the same. Keep the gun where it would not fall out. Keep it where sweat and dust did less harm, and keep it where it did not spook cattle or announce trouble in town. That is why the leather most people picture from movies arrived after the frontier cooled, and exhibition shooters and prop masters refined flashy rigs for the camera. The real riders managed cattle first and carried firearms in ways that made long days bearable and short bursts of danger survivable, whether that meant a snug holster high on the belt, a hideout revolver tucked away, or a trusted Winchester resting in a scabbard by the saddle. Number 2. How lawmen and outlaws actually carried. Town law shaped carry habits more than bravado. In places like Tombstone and Dodge City, visitors were expected to hand over their guns or keep them out of sight, so a big showy holster was a liability inside city limits. Working lawmen adapted to that reality. Many kept a medium or short barrel revolver under a coat, in a trouser pocket, or riding high on the belt where it would not draw attention. A shoulder holster or a simple belt slip made sense for a marshal who needed a discreet draw in a crowded room. The goal was to stay armed without starting a fight before words had a chance to work. Speed mattered less than access, concealment, and retention while moving through tight spaces. Eyewitness accounts and period reporting describe officers carrying in coat pockets or waistbands when trouble was expected, which lines up with how they enforced gun ordinances on the street. The famous names were practical rather than theatrical. Wild Bill Hickok wore his pistols butt forward and could twist draw while seated at a card table, which was more useful in real life than a low-slung movie rig. Wyatt Earp often went without a holster altogether when walking into a tense situation, since a gun in a pocket was both fast enough and less provocative. Bat Masterson favored tidy rigs and shorter barrels at different points in his career, which fit the pattern of a peace officer who needed control more than a flashy stance. Outlaws also avoided unnecessary signals. Robbers and rustlers carried discreetly until the last moment. Cross-draw setups were common with coats because the grip sat forward and cleared fabric quickly. Extra pistols might ride in a waistband or inside a vest to back up a primary gun, not to look daring, but to stay in the fight if one cylinder ran dry or a gun failed. Outside town, the equation changed, yet the logic stayed practical. A high ride on the belt kept the grip clear of a saddle horn and reduced rubbing while mounted. A small hideout revolver could disappear in a pocket for travel and gambling halls. The heavy lifting still belonged to a shotgun by the door or a rifle in the scabbard. Whether badge or bandit, the people who lived by their wits chose carry methods that balanced local law, social norms, and the gritty physics of real use, not the clean lines of a poster. Number 1. The myth of the cowboy gun belt. The picture everyone knows is a low-slung holster riding the thigh, cartridges gleaming, and a hand hovering for a split-second draw. That look is mostly a 20th century invention shaped by Wild West shows and later by Hollywood. On real frontiers, people carried handguns in simpler, higher rigs, or they tucked them into waistbands and pockets to keep the gun out of the way while working and riding. Early holsters were narrow, California, or Slim Jim styles that rode high and fit the gun closely. In the 1870s, a sturdier Mexican loop pattern spread, but even those were practical scabbards, not flashy drop rigs. The fast draw holster, with a deep cut, metal liner, and exaggerated drop, took off with exhibition shooters and film armorers decades after the classic cattle drive era. That alone undercuts the movie image. Another reality check comes from town law. Many boomtowns required visitors to check guns on arrival, which made open display a bad idea and open carry inside town limits illegal without a permit. Tombstone's Ordinance No. 9 is the famous example, enforced the year of the OK Corral fight. Dodge City posted warnings about carrying firearms, and Texas passed tough public carry limits during Reconstruction. When law made open wear risky and social norms favored discretion, concealed or high-ride carry won by default. Famous figures also carried in ways that don't match the poster on a dorm wall. Wild Bill Hickok wore his revolvers butt forward so he could twist draw while seated, a method rooted in earlier military practice rather than any cinematic quick draw. Working cowboys had a different priority. Most of the day they were on horseback or handling tools, so a thigh rig would rub, snag, and collect dust. Many kept a rifle or shotgun handy on the saddle and left a revolver in a saddlebag or a snug holster high on the belt. When a sidearm was on the body, smaller pocket models and simple bell slips were common because they were cheap, compact, and good enough for close trouble. None of this means no one ever slung low leather in the 1800s, but the broad pattern is clear. The iconic gunfighter rig became iconic after the frontier cooled, when entertainment needed a bold silhouette and speed tricks for the camera. Real people balanced law, comfort, and concealment. The gun was a tool to keep secure, not a costume to advertise.